to try and take it. I mean, it's not easy to do what we do, so they think they can, by all means. Anyway, all right. So tonight we are not going to be doing any game night festivities. I thought we would do something a little bit more intimate and fun. I thought we could have our own version of Geek Vibes Live. There are a few topics out there that I thought we would have a lot of fun talking about. One of them being how we view the state of movie theaters after the coronavirus epidemic has come to an end or somewhat slows up. So that's one of the topics. The other ones I'll kind of go through as we go. You guys have any ideas, just shout them out. And we just talk about it. So this does not need to be an extremely long one. You all have voiced the unnecessary length I sometimes go with these episodes. So this, we're just going to have fun, and we're going to flow. And then when we're ready to stop, we stop it. So let's start off with this first topic. Obviously, we hear AMC was talking about filing for bankruptcy. We also heard that theaters are beefing with Universal, threatening not to play any Universal movies in their theaters, and then quickly came back on it. But I do believe, and Tia, you more than anyone can speak to this because I've had this conversation with you so many times. I do believe it only takes one streaming service to release a large quality movie and make it streaming only. Maybe do select theaters, like one showing in LA, one in New York, one in Chicago, maybe do something like that. But it only takes one for the tides to change. And now the reason why I don't think theaters are in an immediate threat is because you can't duplicate anything a theater can do at home. For example, when Avatar was huge, we say this numerous times, the movie was huge because of the visual of it. You putting on 3D glasses and going into this world. You can't really get that feeling from your television. I think if when Avatar first came out, if everyone could only watch it on Disney Plus, we'd look at that movie completely differently. We'd go, it was okay, whatever. We wouldn't look at it as this visual masterpiece. I personally look at it to where, scary movies, I can only watch in a movie theater. There's very few times that I actually do watch scary movies. It has to be in a movie theater because, especially when you're building suspense, how movie theaters have the surround sound, the sound kind of goes a little quiet, kind of lures you in, and then boom, get you. I can't really do that on my television. I have a really nice sized TV, but I can't really get that feeling of it. So I mean, there's a lot about what a movie theater offers that you can't really get at home. But again, it only takes one. If Marvel tells you right now, hey, you know how you guys have been dying for X-Men and Fantastic Four? X-Men's gonna come out on Disney Plus. If that comes out on Disney Plus and does record-breaking streaming numbers, I can almost guarantee you, whether it's Bob Iger or whoever replaces him, we'll start to say, let's implement slowly. Maybe we'll do this Hercules movie for Disney Plus, and then maybe we'll do this. And then slowly but surely, Apple will follow in suit, Netflix will follow in suit, and then theaters could truly have a problem. But Chris, I actually want to start with you. Is this something that obviously we're being prisoner of the moment with and we're kind of over exaggerating about? Or could you see a possibility to where theaters are kind of slowly being weeded out as streaming services are doing more bigger scaled projects that are purely streaming only?
Well, I think the caveat to all of this is the actual movie-going experience, right? It's the same thing as going to a sporting event. I mean, I'd much rather prefer to watch football on TV, but there's something special about going and seeing it live. I would say that there's a little bit to that with a movie, and you gave some good examples of unless your house is just absolutely ridiculous or you have a massive amount of money, it's really hard to get that same experience. I would say the one thing that they need to focus on is when all of this is over and you can go back to the movies, is making that experience the best possible. And I think the biggest thing is, without ticket sales, if you're just doing streaming, how does that equate? What are you selling those? Let's say you're streaming a new release, what does that pricing model look like? Because I don't think it would be like a subscription service. It would be like a pay to see ticket, like a digital ticket, which I thought would be really smart in general. I think there's multiple ways to, see sports or see a movie or whatever. I could definitely, see AMC's side of this, where they're like, you're releasing these films. It's kind of fucked up. But I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a while, at least in my opinion. I mean, there's so many movies that, unless it's going to give you, if I'm just watching like an indie film or something that I know is not going to be crazy visual, as opposed to something like Dunkirk, I don't necessarily feel like I need to go to the theater for that. But I know there's always an argument to be made about going and having that theater experience, because, I'm sure when film came out, people thought the opera and Broadway would be done to some extent, right? So you just have to make that experience very special and make people really have the nostalgia for it, like when you were a kid going to see a movie or something. There's got to be more to it than just offering the beer and food. It needs to be more special, in my opinion. It's just making that thing bigger so that people still care about going to the theater.
Yeah, and I think, like, I would say if let's give a really good example. Let's say if Disney Plus tells you, all right, you want to see Doctor Strange 2, we're releasing it exclusively on Disney Plus, and you have to pay, let's say, $20 to $25, right? A lot of people will go, that's a lot. Like, I don't know if I want to pay that. But then I would ask that same person, have you ever taken your significant other or your mom or your sister or your brother or whoever to the movies and gotten some candy, some popcorn, plus 2 tickets? That's almost $30. So you're paying $30 to $34 to eat and have a movie experience, when they're telling you you could do that at home for almost $10 to $15 less. Plus, it's more convenient. You don't have to drive, find parking, get all dressed up, have to wait in line. None of that. Your convenience is you're at home. You can be in your sweats. You could be in your birthday suit, whatever you want. You can enjoy your movie how you want to, and it's $20. Now, here's the tricky part, Chris, of where they're going to have to bridge that gap. People are going to say, if I pay $20, is this $20 for life that I have this movie, or do I have to pay $20 each time I want to watch it? That, to me, will make the difference between whether people are jumping to do that, or people are kind of like, maybe I might kind of rather have a full experience. Because a lot of people, like, if when I saw Infinity War, right, I wouldn't have minded paying $20 to watch that at home. But to me, the experience of it is what truly made that movie special. Looking around and seeing kids start to cry because Spider-Man disappeared, and people that were gasping when Thanos took the blade off of Iron Man's arm and stabbed him with it, and you thought he was going to die at that moment. Just experiencing that with people is something that can't really be duplicated anywhere else. So, I mean, there are elements of it that will be risky, but to your point, with streaming numbers, I've said this, Chris, for forever. Every streaming company, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, whatever, they lie about their numbers. So when Netflix tells you Stranger Things Season 3 broke all kinds of records and you've never seen a streaming record like this, what do you have to equate that to? How can you visibly see that those numbers were hit? You can't. And then your question is, well, how long were they extended? Like, if I told you a movie was #1 for 4 weeks, you go, that's impressive. But if I told you Stranger Things broke records for a Friday, that means nothing to me. Because then that means for the remainder of the year, no one's watching that. It has no replay value, because that all those millions that watched it Friday aren't watching it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's more impressive for a movie to hit those numbers consecutive weeks, more so than it is for a streaming show to have it for the course of 2 to 3 days. So, I mean, that will be difficult. That will be difficult. But did you want to add anything else, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, just a rebuttal with digital purchases in general. If you really read the fine print on most things, even if you purchase a movie like for Amazon, you don't necessarily own that movie. You own the rights to watch that film, but you don't own that movie. If they decide to take it off their platform, so I mean, that's an argument you could make about anything, not just streaming a movie for one ticket price. I think the one ticket price thing is great for me personally, especially when it gets around like Oscar season.
Hmm.
There's like 7 films I want to see. I would much rather sit at home and do that, unless it's like something like I said, like Dunkirk, where it's going to be an actual experience. Like I think it's all about the experience, and like you said, with the fan reaction, there's certain movies where, oh hell yeah, I want to see that in the theaters. But if it's like I said, like a deep indie film, I don't necessarily feel like I need to necessarily see that in the theater.
Yeah, I agree with. I mean, look, whenever this next Fast and Furious comes out or the next Hobbs and Shaw, I I don't want to have to go to the theater to have to see that. I also don't want to have to wait like 6 months for it to come out on DVD. I'd rather pay $20 and watch it at home. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do want to see both, but I don't want to have to go to the theater with other people to experience it. So I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, and you made a great point. When you buy it, like I know, like I legit bought Netflix around when it really started getting hot because I wanted to be able to watch Family Guy up to that point without having to buy the DVDs. American Dad was on there, Archer was on there, The Office. Once Family Guy and all those stuff started to go, I'm kind of like, I paid only for this, like, and now it's gone, and I had to go the rest of the month trying to figure out what to watch. Luckily, not long after Daredevil and everything else came, but you're absolutely right. You buy it, and then if Amazon's like, hey, it's not really doing well for us being here, we're gonna get rid of it. You're kind of like, I just spent $24.99. What do you mean you're gonna get rid of it? Do I get my money back? No.
And I mean, a perfect example is I purchased Cannonball Run. Somehow Amazon lost the rights to it, so this is a film that I technically should own, but
Right.
it's no longer on Amazon. So
Right.
even though I own the rights to stream it, if it's not there on the platform, you can't watch it. And this goes the same thing with iTunes. It's actually, when you really start reading into it, it gets a lot shadier than you
Yeah.
think. You're basically
Yeah.
paying for an endless release until they're ready to pull it off for whatever reason, whatever might happen.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I get your point, but to me, sometimes when I buy movies, like I bought a bunch of movies on iTunes throughout the time I've had an iPhone. And I'm like, it's not like I don't have like a lifelong, uh, kind of feeling toward it. So like, I bought Infinity War not long after it came out on DVD, and I was able to get it on iTunes. But if it ever disappeared from iTunes, I kind of be like, I've seen it like 100 times. I feel like I'm pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean you're a gamer, so you definitely understand that coming from like
Yeah,
PlayStation or Xbox,
yeah.
where sometimes you're just going to lose stuff because of trademarks for music or however they wrote those deals. Sometimes that stuff just goes away, whether you own it or not.
That sucks more because games cost $60, not 20. So if I spend $60, it better be here when my kids are on this earth, so I could show them the game. But no, you're absolutely right. But Martin, I want to go to you next. How do you view this situation? Do you feel as though movie theaters should feel threatened, or is this something that once things go back to normal and they clean the theaters, and maybe what they smartly should do, separate some of the seating so I'm not sitting next to the guy that's coughing up a lung next to me? Space out your seatings, clean them more thoroughly. When you do stuff like that, I think you'll have people more comfortable going there. But the idea of seeing the guy, like the guy telling you, hey, wait out here a second, guys, I'm going to go clean the theater. And he comes out in 5 minutes. I'm like, what did you clean? He's like, oh, I just swept up the popcorn. That's not cleaning. Like, I don't know what the guy before me was doing in that chair. Like thoroughly clean that. Like, spray something, wipe something down. But do you think this is something that will pretty much pass and we'll be back in theaters as soon as we're able to?
I honestly believe that this is, just the phase we're going to because of the virus thing. Now they have to understand, the studios have to, while the theaters are shut down, they still got to make money if they can, which is, why they're doing the live streaming thing. But I think, when I go to the theater, like you've covered so many of the points that I would think about. Like I said, especially like in dealing with the Avengers thing, with the whole crowd atmosphere, with the audience atmosphere. Like I said, just watching the scenes on YouTube, I still get chills watching how people react to certain scenes. So you'll be hard pressed to duplicate that. And so, I've got just talking about Avatar in 3D. I got a 3D TV. But number one, I got to think originally for Avatar, I very seldom watch 3D movies. Matter of fact, the best 3D movie I have is about fish, which is kind of sad. And I said I've had surround sound before. It's just not the same thing. Now, like I said, I don't begrudge anybody trying to make money, especially during this time where you're struggling. But I think once we get past this point, hopefully we get past this point. Especially all these blockbuster movies, as you say, is that I'm going to pay. If I pay $25 to see one streaming online, right? That's not much different than when I'm paying at the theater, but I'm still getting a different feel for it in the theater. And more, to be honest with you, except for the big blockbusters like Marvel, some of the Marvel stuff and everything, I generally don't go to the theater that much. I mean, basically, I just wait till it comes out on Blu-ray and buy the Blu-ray, then just take the digital copy and put it on my Vudu, and then I've got both. That's because I'm lazy about pulling the disc out. But yeah, I mean, I think it's it's like I say, I can understand both sides, but I think in the end, eventually it's going to get back just the way it was. But as you say, if a streaming company could come up with a plan where it makes monetary sense for someone, as you say, just for the comfort of home. I mean, again, it's never going to be the same thing. That may happen, but I fully expect things to go back the way they are once we get past this whole CV-19 thing.
Yeah, my biggest thing is I think a lot of people feel as though it's something that can't be done, and it's very easily possible to do video on demand and make up your money through that. It's not impossible. It's not. It all depends on the person, and it's a gamble that you take nonetheless. To me, like you were saying, Chris, just the best way to gauge it isn't by going, well, how many streams did we get, like music does. You would just gauge it to where it's like, I charged $20 and 100,000 people spent the $20 for my movie. You gauge it that way, rather than trying to say, well, it hit this many sales per. Don't make it confusing. Just, I set it at $20, 200 to 300,000 people bought it. That's how I'm gauging the success of where it's at. And to me, if you're a movie theater, the reason why I think a lot of these movie theater owners are kind of freaking out is because movie theaters struggle as it is. We all know this, so I'm not saying it is news for us, but a lot of people don't know this. Movie theaters, when people go, geez, they're charging you like $13 to $15, and the concession is like $13 to $15. Like, that's highway robbery. The reason they charge you so much at concession is that's where their money comes from. Studios take your ticket sales. Studios are overcharging you for your tickets. Theaters are overcharging you for the food because that's their bread and butter. So when people come in with their own foods and stuff, and then like 10 years later, they're like, how did these movie theaters close? Well, a lot of people thought like you and said, I'm not spending $45 on two people to eat and enjoy the movie. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, once Netflix started to really become a thing, and then Apple, and then Disney Plus, movie theaters started to get nervous already. Because there are people that don't rush to the theaters Friday, Saturday, or Sunday to see movies. Some people go on a Tuesday. So what does that mean for your movie? It means your movie didn't really hit peak sales for a weekend. It's hitting its peak during the week. And they don't like that. They like weekend box office numbers because they think that's when the most people can go. So, I mean, movie theaters should feel threatened regardless if we had coronavirus or not. Their time is coming. I will say, Chris, the point you made of everyone thought like opera and stuff like that would kind of make its way out, and they're still here and they're still doing great. Movie theaters will be the same thing, but it'll be more of a niche. to where someone will be like, yo, I'm taking my daughter to the movie theaters, and someone will look at you like, you're what? Who does that? And it's like, she's never really experienced it, so I'm going to take her. But I do think we will have a future to where people will look at you crazy for going to the movies, because it'll become such a norm to watch it at home. But Tia, do you view it the same way, or do you kind of feel like once this is over in 2021, we would assume, this doesn't look like it's getting any better this year, but once this is over, we'll all be back in the movie theaters?
I mean, so, like, for me personally, before all of this happened, I wasn't going to the movie theaters unless it was a huge blockbuster movie. In general, I'm not going to go to the theater to go see those smaller type of films. Films like Scoob or Trolls Worldwide, those should be streaming service movies, unless the argument then could be made, well, just to get the kids out of the house. But do you really want to spend all that money to take your kids to the movie theater, and they're just going to cry and whine and run up and down the aisles anyway? I'd much rather have that at home. Now, that being said, prior to all this, I did say, I would spend $19, $20 to rent a movie. But then Invisible Man was available to rent, and I was like, I'm not spending $19 to $20 to rent this movie. It might have been different if they wanted to put Black Widow on Disney Plus. I will say that. I would definitely pay that for that movie. But in general, I don't know where the direction of movie theaters are going to go. I actually don't see that they're going to go the way of Broadway. And this is from someone who actually goes to see Broadway. But those are $150 per ticket. So you're only going like once or twice a year anyway, unless you just got it like that, which is good for you. But, some people with movies are going all the time, like Dom and AJ and all of that. And some people like that experience. Paola loves that experience, and that's great. For me, I view it as I only want that crowd experience for those blockbusters like Infinity War, like Endgame. I can't imagine experiencing some of those big highlights in those films at home. Those were so wonderful because of the shared experience in the movie theater. But I mean, I think everyone has their good points here. Chris made some really amazing points. You made some amazing points, because you're right, Juan. It's like, all right, you don't want to spend the $19 to $20 to rent because that's expensive. But you're going to go to the theater for about $14, right? It's not like you own the movie, you're seeing it. And then me, who goes to the Alamo, where they serve you your drinks and food, I'm getting a few beers, I'm getting popcorn, I'm getting pizza. And so then your bill does end up being around $30, $40 at the end of it. So for me, I can't make the predictions of how the movie theaters are going to go. I think they might obviously assess what type of movies they show, such as independent movies, which normally wouldn't probably have that big of a theater run anyway, be more available on streaming services like what Amazon is doing for the SXSW festival right now. All I know is that for me, once the movie theaters come back, I'm going to go see all of the amazing comic book movies, and that's going to be it. You'll see me at the Black Widow premiere. You'll see me at the Eternals and Wonder Woman 1984. But I'm not going to be there for Fast and Furious 9. I'm not going to be there for other films. So for me personally, I don't think that my attitude towards the movies are going to change. They're going to go back to exactly how they were before all this shit happened.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this as you were talking. Like AMC has the Stubs membership, or the A-list, or whatever it's called. I've been out of movies, it feels like, for forever now. But it's like the A-list program. Me and Joel have it, where you could see 3 movies a week for like $25. I think streaming services, if they ever implemented this to come out of movie theaters, should do like $30 a month, and you could see up to 5 movies. You could get up to 5 movies to rent for that month. I think if you do it that way, it'll work, because the first thing we know is once theaters open again, all these movies are going to hit you very quickly. It's going to be like October, 6 movies, November, 6 movies, December, 6 movies. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of people that have to make a lot of decisions. Because once movie theaters opens up, what does that mean? Everyone who hasn't had to pay rent in their certain states or whatever, that opens up too. You got to pay for that. Your kids go back to school, got to pay for transportation. So like everything will start to hit you. If you're an adult, it's like that'll be the worst possible time when everything is ready to serve you your bills again. So you're not going to be looking forward to spending like $30 every time for that 1 month for those 3 or 4 movies. Because all the blockbusters are pushed back to later this year. So you'll get 007, you'll get Wonder Woman, you'll get Black Widow, you'll get Eternal, like you'll get all that all at once. And I think it'll cause a lot of people to make decisions. Go ahead.
And that's the problem with say, and I don't know if we've mentioned it either via chat or on one of these type of shows, but that's the problem with some of these streaming services not having premiered their stuff earlier. Like I said, HBO Max is premiering May 27th. Well, I don't know about all of your guys' states, but my state of New York is planning on reopening May 15th. So you're going to have all of these states reopening, people going back to work, people going back to school, going to this, going to that, and you're deciding to put it's like you clearly have the stuff. I've seen the trailers. You clearly have the movies. I'm not a technical person, so I'm not going to say what maybe the problems are there or something, but as you assess everything that was going on, it should have been your decision to push out HBO Max, say like a month ago. That would have been the prime time. Like Quibi could not have like decided to put their shit out at a better time. It's like we're literally putting our shit out in the middle of the apocalypse. It's 90 days free trial. So you get to, for free, while you have all the time in the world, get to sit down and watch every single one of our shit that's only like 8 minutes per episode.
I will say this, because I was with you. You know I was right there with you. Like, release the Kraken. Give it to us. Give us everything right now. But what does come behind that is a lot of money has been spent on marketing. A lot of money has been spent on slots. So albeit none of this marketing matters because you're not doing red carpets, it is still money that was spent. So ultimately it's like everything that you put money towards to go towards that specific time, it's really hard to reshuffle the deck and now say, all right, forget all the Instagram lives and the Twitter Q&As and stuff we were going to do then. Let's push it all to right now. I agree with you because I do believe once everyone opens up again, no one's going to want to be in the house. So for you to think that someone's going to sit there a week-to-week basis or an hour-to-hour basis or a day-to-day basis watching all this streaming content, no. Their streaming services are going to feel what movie theaters have been feeling these past couple of months very quickly. And of course, yes, it will gradually start to dip back into the streaming services' favor as we get closer to the winter. Or if this world ever has a winter again, specifically the East Coast. It
not wrong.
Yeah, no, we didn't even have one. It just was like
we didn't have. There was a dusting. Like that was about it. So you're right. You're absolutely right. And the thing is that one last thing is that when if and when, because they are saying that it's kind of ridiculous for us to think that anything's ever going to go back to normal, and that's true, but say you go back to your 9 to 5. When you get home, you haven't been home all day, so you're gonna have to clean, you're gonna have to cook, you're gonna have to do that. And the weekends, because you've been sitting at home for 3 months now, you're gonna utilize those weekends to do your errands, to go visit family, perhaps, and all that. You're not gonna sit down and wanna indulge in binge watching.
Yeah, no, look, you're completely correct. It's just one of those things where it's like it's obviously a wait and see. It's nothing that we could say specifically or emphatically, But I mean, it's just it's the logic of it. Like we've been trapped in our house ultimately this entire time. When we're able to go out, and me being a homebody, I'm gonna want to go out. I'm gonna want to just be in a comic book shop around other people that aren't my family 24/7. So I mean, I'm gonna be yearning for that. The last thing I'm gonna want is to be like, Juwan, what are you doing? I'm just still sitting in my basement. Really? They opened the world? Yeah, no, I just still wanted to sit. No one's gonna think that. So,
especially with the summer, if we're allowed, like for me personally, if you're allowed to go to the beach or the pool, I'm going to the freaking beach and the pool.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
get a tan.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's what everyone is thinking. Vacations that you wanted to take, people are gonna get chances to take those. So it's like everything will hit at once, and it's gonna be hard for these streaming services. But Jacoya, to round this out of this topic. Do you think things will go back to normal? Movie theaters will be fine. It'll be a booming business again. Or do you think that this is a sign of the times changing? And part of the times changing is movie theaters might start to phase themselves out.
I can answer this question based on the numbers that came back from Trolls World too. So Trolls World did this, this big rollout for their digital premiere. They had the Fandango ads going, and you can buy the movie or rent the movie, and then you'll be able to watch it for. You had 30 days to be able to actually watch it, and then you had 48 hours. But then, once you started watching to actually watch the movie, you could watch it multiple times within that time frame. So I was actually checking numbers out for that, and Trolls actually was able to make, I think it was $75 million just based off of, the streaming option, right? Generally, what Universal said was that they usually split whatever their movies do within whatever movie. So let's say AMC, if whatever the ticket sales with AMC is, they actually split the movies. They actually split the money. Whatever the money is brought in, they split it. With them just doing straight streaming, they didn't have to split. They got the straight up $75 million. So now AMC is mad. They're like, well, we're not going to stream any more Universal movies now. They have an attitude now, because it's like now you trying to make it. It's like now that this actually worked out, now it's like, wait a minute, we may have a problem. And since you're broadcasting it, now we can't work with you anymore because you're going to give other movie franchises to have an idea of we can keep our money on our own if we do it the streaming way. Movie theaters for me is kind of a iffy thing with me. I only go out for specific movies. I go out for premieres, for the Marvel premieres. I didn't go see Fast and Furious in the movie theater. I went to go see the Jurassic Park, and that was only because I had T-Mobile Tuesday at that time, and they was giving us the ticket. So I was like, all right, cool. When I go to the movies, I actually get discounts for my ticket. So I only pay between $8.50 and $10 for a ticket to go see a movie. When I do go to a movie, I make it an event. So we go to like premiere. Like we went to go see Captain Marvel. It was an event. Like we all had our Captain Marvel stuff on. We go out for event movies. If it's a regular movie, we either streaming or we're gonna wait until it comes on, online. So I've never been like a crazy, I have to go to the movie thing. Now I do have a Stubs. I have a Stubs Premiere account for when I do go. I get my discounts. You get your little birthday things like that and stuff. That is the part where the movie theaters will miss out on, is that concession part. I honestly think that if the world decides to open back and the media uses the proper words, everybody's going to forget this happened. It's going to be a very small percentage of people who's going to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to go out. I'm scared to go outside. I think that once the gates are open, I think everybody's going to flood back out to doing what they regularly were doing. I don't think it's going to be that much of a resistance to go back out and enjoy life, because I think a lot of people have a lot of time to think about the times when they took advantage of the time of being able to be outside. So now it's like, oh my gosh, I was making excuses to not go this place and not go this place. But now that I can't go, I really want to go. So when I have the opportunity to, I'm going to go out and enjoy life, you know? So I honestly don't think that it will be an instant issue, but I think that there will be some back talk conversations on where the profit is going to be at, because at the end of the day, all these big companies care about is their profit. And if they're able to keep more profit in their pocket without having to share, and if this lockdown continues, because even though New York City is saying, or New York tri-state area is saying May 15th, I see them extending that. I don't see it actually opening May 15th. You know what I'm saying? So the longer that we have to wait for the world to actually open, more adjustments from these companies are going to have to be made to be able to adjust to the new lifestyles. Now, I actually have a home theater system at home where I can enjoy my movies how I want to, with the surround and the different echoes and all stuff like that. And I actually, you know what I'm saying, I enjoy that. People who are movie buffs, if they have to, they will adjust to do so and enjoy movies in their home. You know what I'm saying? When we did our troll premiere in the household, I had a big AMC sign printed on the wall. I had a poster. I made like concession stand. I made like real like movie theater nacho cheese. I actually found a recipe online and made the nacho cheese. I had it in the little shot cups. I had the nachos. I made little sliders. Like, we literally had a movie theater set up in here because that was the idea that we wanted to get. We was having a premiere and we got creative and we were stuck in the house and we couldn't go out. So I think that more people are learning to be more creative. They're learning to be more innovative in what they, you know, in their own skill sets. So like I said, it's kind of an up and down thing, because I'm not particularly sure. I know down south when I lived in Miami, they have an outdoor theater there. And a lot of outdoor theaters have actually come back into business. They've been opened back up. They've only been like showing like older movies, but they are trying to like gauge the interest. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, do we have another market here? Because what is the best thing to be in the safety of your own car with your family? Like, we used to have a truck that had the back that the hatch came down. My mother would like put the car backwards, and we would be in the back in the back hatch of the truck watching the movies laid out. You know, like that was like our Saturdays. We did that all the time. So I don't know if we would have that option here in New York City, or whether Queens or maybe Long Island may be able to do something like that. But that would give an option for innovation, for a change. There's going to have to be some kind of adjustment and a adjustment to the shift, because there's a shift going on right now. The whole idea, like the regular 9-to-5 job, is going to be different. Like that lie that the bosses was telling everybody that you can't work from home. We realized it was a lie. We can work from home. Y'all work really, really quickly to get us the options and the systems to work from home. So this adjustment right now is really changing. So I'm interested to see what it is. But I don't think that if we're allowed to go outside, I don't think it's going to be an instant downward spiral for the movie theaters. But I do think that these movie makers, they're going to be making some conversations behind the scenes to figure out what they can do to keep profit. If the streaming option continues to work for them, I don't think that they're going to be trying to find a way to keep their profits in their pocket. Put it like that. It's not going to be about us. It's going to be about what money can they keep.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I was gonna, when we were talking about making movies special, and this is just an experience I've had in the past with going to see older films, I feel like movie theaters still have something to fall back on with the amount of films that are still out there in classics, and there's still ways to tour those original film reels. Like, for instance, when they did Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs for Quentin Tarantino, that was like a must-see for me, because I didn't get to see those in theaters because I was like, what, I don't know, 7 or something when they came out. So I think there's always a niche market for theaters, and it's just about making that experience better. And like I said, I mean, there's lots of ways to do that. And we've seen that with the dinner theaters. I think it just, you still got to, they just have to step it up a little bit, especially when you can look at the success and some of the numbers that Miss Major threw out there when you're talking about the trolls. And that whole thing sounded awesome as far as a premiere in your own house. That's amazing. I love that. I love that idea. But as we're able, like right now we have 5 people in a chat talking about this. More and more people could just do this and watch a movie at the same time and react to it at the same time. I mean, there's so many different things, and the world's changing. And I think this is an obvious, as mentioned, this is an obvious thing that people are seeing. It's like there's lots of different ways to enjoy things and do different things that don't necessarily require you going to a theater, which means that you have to make that movie theater experience very special. Like, going to see The Shining and having a Q&A, or Napoleon Dynamite and having a Q&A, or just something silly. Some of the things that I've been to that were fun going to a theater experiences. And hopefully they'll look at this and say, okay, well, how do we make coming to see a movie special again?
Well, yeah, and if I can just make a point really quick, you're completely right, Chris. Like, I'm just gonna throw out some stuff like United Artists Theater. It was really, you just go there. Here's like a shitty concession stand with some gummy bears and overpriced popcorn, and then you go see the movie and you walk out. But like, say the Alamo does a lot of those old movie nights. They'll have classics playing. About 5 years ago, I actually went with a bunch of friends of mine and saw Spice World. Yes, huge classic. But they serve food to you. They serve drinks to you. Anytime there's a superhero movie, all of the commercials beforehand are something to do with that. They'll do fun facts. People will come out and be like, "Are you guys ready for this?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're ready." And you have this like really fun experience where it makes you want to go there. So I agree with Chris. I agree with Jacoya that there has to be this like experience that the movie theaters are bringing. And I actually love the idea of a drive-through movie theater. I think they can actually do that more upstate, say in Poughkeepsie and all that. I believe I've been to one up there, when I was way younger.
Yeah, the biggest thing is to let me not say attack, but to respond to a few things you were saying, Jacoya. I think when everything opens back up, it still will be gradually slow for movie theaters for this main fact. When they open back up, it won't be because they cured coronavirus. It'll be because the death toll has dwindled. So it means you could still catch it and get sick from it. It just means it's not as high of a death toll as it was before. Which means if I'm sitting next to somebody and he's coughing and sneezing up a storm, I'm not going to say, "Oh, that's nothing. Let me get back to my movie." I'm leaving, and I'm politely asking the manager for my money back, and I'll go stream, as Jacoya said, the movie at home. So, I mean, you will get some people that will have to kind of get out of the mindset of it's still out there and it's still dangerous. I don't want to say get out of the mindset, but people try to work around the idea of it. So it still will be slow. I'm just saying you won't have people in the house to watch streaming services. They'll be out in the world. I just don't know how quickly someone will want to be in a library that's packed where they have to sit next to somebody who could start sneezing and coughing. Or I know this for a fact. First time I go to the movie theater and I leave and I go to the bathroom and I see like 6 dudes not wash their hands on their way out, I'm probably not coming back to that theater for a while because those guys touched a lot on their way into the bathroom and on their way out of the bathroom. So I mean, just the mentality of how much safer we have to be going forward. Those outdoor movies are something that works for, I think, bigger cities because you have a chance of having an area that could fit a lot of people. But where it's going to kind of suck is like, I know Kanan and Dom live in Tennessee. I don't know how many spots there are in Tennessee for you to be able to host 1,000 people or 100 to 200 to 300 people.
They'll drive like 4 hours to go see that. People down the South love driving.
We used to drive. We actually used to drive like an hour and a half out. Even though we lived in Miami, the place was it was down in the Keys, I believe, where the actual movie theater was at. So I mean, when it's something like that, you know what you're going for. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I will say, Martin, you can speak to this a lot more. When I lived in Richmond, Virginia, Richmond was had this thing of making things so convenient. So you had a plaza that had your bank, had your restaurants, had your everything. You had a mall that had everything plus a movie theater to avoid you having to drive far to go to anything. So, I mean, the idea of Richmond saying, "Hey, guys, you don't mind driving like an hour and a half out of the way to go see a movie, right?" People in Richmond might go, No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. Find somewhere closer for me to be able to enjoy this. So I think that will also be a curve. But to me, the biggest thing is, and also to the point you're making, Jacoy, of the studios kind of talking behind the scenes, studios will never have that conversation. Main reason why is they are the ones that make all the money when they make your tickets $15. They will not want that to change unless the numbers you gave for Trolls are great numbers for VOD. Those do not equate to what that movie would have made, especially in this prime time where kids would have been out of school had it been in a theater. So I mean, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna kind of go, "That was good for that. Let's see if we can drop something else. Let's see if we can triple that. And if we can't, movie theaters are the way to go." The way to get the conversation started is with us, is if we are deeming we have no interest to go to the theater, we'd rather see it at home. We affect our market. But we have to remember, these studios, they don't necessarily want it to happen. They won't be upset if it does because they'll adapt. But they don't necessarily want a future of, I now have to allocate, as Chris said, my streaming numbers, and I now have to see if people are willing to pay $20 per movie to watch it at home. Because what a lot of people don't think about, because we're just so used to it, is I was talking to someone today where I was saying, like, hey, what if they, charge a certain fee and you kind of just watch a movie at home? And they were like, I don't want to pay that. I'd rather just go to the movies. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how much you pay at a movie theater. I think we've gotten so used to the idea of this is all we have. So it's like, all right, 2 tickets, adult or kid, here's my card. Or here's my cash. You're not really processing. You're spending the amount of money, or you're actually spending more going to the movies than you are technically for gas.
Unless you go to the movie theater by yourself at a matinee and your soda and your chips are in your pocket.
I have a cousin who does that. So yes. So that I know for a fact that does happen. But it's so few far in between. Someone to wake up on a Saturday at 10 a.m. to be like one of the first people at that, it's rare. It's rare. That's why when you see people at a matinee, it's just like,
what are you doing here?
Open in here. Like, you're kind of all looking at each other like, oh, same idea, right?
We go to matinees a lot, mainly because we just recently started. My 18-year-old son is autistic. We had never taken him to a theater because we didn't think he could handle it. So we started taking him to the matinees where there's very few people in there, and
right.
He does great. And of course, the fact that it's cheaper for us is a good thing too. But that doesn't seem to affect the cost of the popcorn and everything else, though.
Oh no, no,
definitely not.
Actually, Martin, I'm surprised they don't increase concession during matinees because they're like,
you would think, you're right.
Like, all right, you want to pay $8 for your ticket? Well, it's $30 for a small bag of popcorn. Like, we're gonna make up our money somewhere here.
Yeah, and they would find my wife's purse a whole lot bigger because she'd be bringing in the popcorn.
100%. You'd see like a whole shopping aisle in her purse. But no,
There's
I mean,
reason.
Go ahead, Tia.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's a reason why most movie theaters have a dollar store like right next to it.
Of course, and that dollar store makes all of its money Friday night, Saturday night. But no, I started being interested in matinees because there's never children there. So like once I started to notice like children aren't there. But then it became tough because it was like, would you rather go Thursday night where you know it's going to be loud, so many people, kids and whatever? Would you rather wake up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday? I tend to go with Thursday night with the kids and the loud noise because I'm not waking up 10 o'clock on a Saturday. But matinees are awesome if you're not a fan of crying babies and annoying children. Especially at superhero movies. It is the worst. But all right, let's move on. Let's talk about the I want to talk about the TV show industry. Sorry. Dakota's texting me like crazy. Let me mute that because I know you guys are hearing my chimes. But no, I want to talk about TV shows. Mainly because we are seeing that a lot of these shows ended their seasons abruptly. T, I know you're a fan of Law & Order. I know Law & Order kind of was just like, this isn't really our finale, but like, this is all we got so far.
Yeah,
So
I
we're
think
gonna
they ended like 3 episodes early. They were supposed to do 24, and it's like, here's the 21st.
right, exactly. So my question is, and Chris, I'm gonna go to you first. How do you think this coronavirus situation is going to affect TV shows that now couldn't complete a season? So if you're giving me a follow-up season, it's going to be hard to know what to expect of the follow-up season when you didn't finish the previous season. So I think a lot of these people might shoot the remainder of the past season, release that, and then go off and shoot the next season. But then that means everything's being pushed back. Like, for example, Chris, I know for a fact the CW does not release, and I think this is for all shows, but the CW does not release a full season. It releases like the first half, and then it's still shooting the second half. So as you get closer to when the finale is supposed to go, they're just wrapping up on that season. So how badly do you think this is going to affect TV shows as far as a show we were supposed to get maybe next year that now is put off to a year later, or people trying to catch up on seasons that now are kind of like all jumbled up?
I mean, I'm assuming they're going to treat it similar to a mid-season break like The Walking Dead does or whatever, and then just jump right back in and finish out the season the best they can. I know Law and Order a little different. I'm also a Law and Order fan. The way they've kind of went about it is giving you a big spoiler for Christopher Maloney coming back to the show, which is like a huge thing in the Law and Order SVU world. So maybe some shows will go that route where they're like, hey, promise you'll come back. We're going to have something big for you. Maybe they have to push a really big episode instead of 2 filler episodes. Like something like The Walking Dead, for instance. There's a lot of that show you can probably, and I like The Walking Dead, but there's a lot of that show you could cut down to like the good episodes. And I think that's true with a lot of TV, right? So CW shows are another good example where there's like, just come on, let's get there. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I think more surprisingly, I think there's going to be a bunch of shelved pilots that we get to see, where originally they were like, I don't think this is going to be good enough, but just because everyone's been at home and not necessarily able to work and not able to shoot, etc. If they already have like pilots or 3-episode pilots and things like that, they might just go, maybe we'll give this show a shot and see what people will say. That to me is the most interesting thing, is like, what kind of weird show has been on the back shelf that's going to be the breakout star of this entire thing?
No, I completely agree with you. The biggest thing I thought once I started to see TV shows are getting affected by what's going on was, me and Joel have been talking about this since the day we met, and that's specifically, I'm going to stick to CW because that's like my bread and butter of like where television begins and ends for me, really, outside of sports. I look at the CW and I go, it's always 23 episodes, right? And you kind of go, you could feel when fillers are coming in the CW. You could feel it in your core. You don't even have to see next week on The Flash. You just know this was a great episode. I'm due for like 6 fillers. And then that's exactly what you get consecutively. 6 fillers that maybe end on a cliff note or something like that. To me, I think shows, especially like the CW, should shrink to about 14 episodes a season. That way you are spending, you have more money to spend on visuals, more money to spend. I can't tell you, Chris, how many times I watch The Flash and I'm like, I've seen that same warehouse for like 8 fights now. Like there has to be other parts of the city you can explore. But obviously you can't afford it. Why? Because you have to make the Flash look interesting. So your money's going to visuals, not locale. So to me, and a lot of people go, well, don't shorten it. It takes the fun away. And I kind of go, everyone that loves Daredevil, Punisher, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, they were only like between 8 to 13 episodes. And we all left those seasons going, yeah, no, that was good. Why? Because there was not one filler episode, because it does not waste time. So I'm like, I look at The Flash and I'm like, you could be 14 episodes and I'd be happy. It means I don't have an episode where Iris is granted the Flash's powers and I have to sit through that. Or We Are the Flash. We're seeing 2 villains go out on a Valentine's date. Like, I don't have to see stupid stuff like that. I could just see the good episodes of The Flash, and then you end it, and that's it. That's it. You spend the summer filming your 14 episodes again, and then come October, we get down to business. So I think that's the biggest thing that should come from this. I am a fan of the Law and Order world. I personally prefer Chicago PD, but I grew up watching SVU. It's how my mom and my stepdad made me terrified of the world. So I am familiar with the show. I don't know how many episodes generally come from Law and Order, but I'm sure you guys would agree that could also be a little shorter. It probably doesn't need episodes as it is. Go ahead, Too.
Well, I'm sorry. Like the Flash, I agree with you. Should definitely shorten. There's way too many fillers with shows like that where there's a continuous story. Then yes, but shows like SVU, they sometimes have an arc, but for and they'll have occurrences, things about the characters. But pretty much every episode is different. So I don't mind Law and Order being as many episodes as it is because it's just binge worthy. It's not like throughout those 24 episodes is this long thing going on and you're like, oh my god, there's so much filler. It's like, no, one episode, this girl got raped and murdered, solve the crime. Next episode, this girl got raped and murdered, solve the crime. This episode is a sex trafficking ring, solve the crime.
Well, Tia, don't do that to Flash. This metahuman killed someone, solved the crime. That metahuman killed someone, solved the crime. It just so happens it's worse. It's bad how good Law and Order actually is.
I have to agree with Tia on this one because each episode is kind of its own canned thing, and it makes it really special when they do have a story arc, like, for instance, Olivia Benson getting kidnapped, which is a 3-episode thing. But because they're just kind of like murder.
That was
yes. So it's kind of like if you look at something like Murder, She Wrote, like each one of those episodes is one episode. It doesn't matter if you don't see all of them necessarily. It's just it's much different than The Flash. The Flash just has episodes where nothing happens. The same thing with Walking Dead. They have episodes where literally nothing happens.
That's a good point.
So not just to make fun of CW shows, but like Law and Order, at least I always know I'm going to get a story and a resolution to the episode.
I will say this. If someone is asking like, hey, I want to binge watch The Flash, what are the best episodes or the best seasons to go to? You can kind of pick apart and kind of tell people like,
seasons
hey, cut seasons in half, and you'll be fine. With Law and Order, you are right. If you miss an episode, it could be more detrimental down the line than it would be if you miss a random episode of The Flash in February. So, I mean, I don't disagree at all. I just think shows run entirely too long as far as episodes in a season, and not all shows need it. Like, you made a great point, Murder, She Wrote. My aunt watches that all the time, and I'm like, if someone was ever new to that show, I would go, spoiler alert, she solves it. Every episode, she solves it. You're not missing anything. Like, you don't have to ask me what happened in season 30. She solves it. End of the story. Same with the A-Team. Spoiler alert, they solve it, So, I mean, you're completely right, and the CW shows had that. I respected Arrow for this season only having about 8 episodes. I could tolerate it so much more than I could if you kind of had this huge arc that went 23 episodes, and now you're telling me to care about this random kid Diggle adopted, and then Diggle had a cousin that came into the arc. It's like, this is stuff I could miss this. I don't have to watch this. Martin, I'll go to you next. Do you see this kind of issue with television? Do you kind of see this as a point to where maybe people could reevaluate how to go about processing television shows? Or do you think it'll kind of be, once everything gets to go back to normal, CW will still have 30 episodes per season, per show? Or do you think people will start to realize maybe in this format, less is more?
And it really depends on the show. You said, like, of course, we've discussed before, I'm a Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan. And when the show first started out, it was, 24 episodes long. And that's another thing I've found is especially since we're binge watching different shows, it amazes me how many shows started out almost the individual episodes kind of set pieces, but eventually started going more serial where things were connected. Same thing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It started out kind of a self-contained episode, and then once they got rolling, then everything started getting tied together. My problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was I was disappointed when they started cutting it back to the lesser amount of episodes. And of course, the main reason we're doing it is because they kept talking like, okay, we're going to cancel it after this season. No, we're going to go ahead and do it another one. No, we're going to go ahead and do another one. And like I said, of course, they're doing the final season for that this year. And it's only, I think, 12, 14 episodes or whatever it is. But as you say, depending on the show, 12 to 14 episodes is fine. I mean, I don't, and what I don't, I say you're still at the filler things. Even like Kathy and I watched The Outlander on Stars. In the beginning of this season, that's kind of almost what they had. They kind of had, they were good episodes, but they were kind of self-contained. Really, nothing was going on. It's only since the last 3 episodes where things have started to pick up. So really, I mean, like if I was to tell somebody for this season, skip the first 3 or 4. I mean, they're good episodes, but if you really want to see what's going on, catch it from 4 now to 7 or 4 to 9. Anyway, because it's less self-contained and more serial, and the drama is really spiking up now in the Outlander. So I mean, like I say, it depends on the show. Now I haven't watched. You're talking about. Good Lord, the names escape me. The one with SVU and all them. So I used to watch them all the time. Yeah, I used to watch those all the time. I haven't watched them in forever now. I mean, pretty much since Melania stopped doing it, I stopped watching them. But more than likely, once it finally ends, I'll go back and watch them again because it was good TV when I watched. And that was another thing you talked about, with the deal where they like the mid-season break. I always would hate that, especially when you waited a year and a half for the show to start and they go like 6 episodes and it's okay, now we'll see you in about 3 months for the next. What?
That's because they're doing more filming, they're doing more editing, they're kind of fixing up things. It's an unnecessary break, but here's the thing, Martin. You don't need a break if you only have 13 to 14 episodes in your season. Obviously you would want to spread them out a little bit. You wouldn't want to have a run that goes from October 1st to like October 30th. But to me, I just feel like, especially with a lot more of these major brand channels like Fox and NBC coming out with their own streaming services, the more you do that, the more I kind of feel like these shows should go there. The budget is increased a bit, the shows are reduced a bit, and we get commercial-free episodes of these shows to where you kind of release them all at once. Like, to me, when streaming first came out, and it really got big and Netflix started coming out with its own shows, someone was like, I would appreciate this more if it was weekly. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I prefer it to where, it's kind of spaced out. And I'm like, that's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard.
No.
If I could get all of the episodes of a certain show to where I could watch the first 5 minutes of it and go, all right, next episode. This is a filler. This episode is irrelevant. Next episode. I'm telling you, it would increase their numbers. It would increase people's interest in it because you're not sitting through either, all right, we started our show in October. It's November now. We'll see you guys in February. What?
Right.
Why? What? Why does that make any sense? To me, and Tia, you are my witness of this. What is the show? Defending Jacob. The fact that they released the first 3 episodes.
Oh, I was just going to speak that.
They released the first 3 episodes, and then today I'm like, oh, they're going to release 3 more. They released 1. I'm like, you dirty mofos. You dirty mofos. And then, Tia, what I hate the most is shows that are this good always happen to be your bi-weekly shows because they end on a cliffhanger and you're kind of like, what's coming? And then it's like, oh, wait till next week. What? So much could happen in a week. I could have money to pay for this, and now I can't experience it. Give it to me all at once. Go ahead, Tia.
And did you watch the episode Defending Jacob today? Because literally the end of it, I'm like, wait, J.K. Simmons is coming and I have to wait a week to see it? I was so mad. If you say anything can happen in a week, I could go drop dead in a week and I will drop dead never having seen that next episode Defending Jacob. I'm so mad.
I felt that, and I felt this way. I was talking to Dakota and AJ. I felt this way about Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The fact that it's a reduced season because it's just ending what we've already kind of had. Why are you making me wait weekly like you would when it was back on Cartoon Network? I thought the fact that you're on a streaming service meant I could get it all at once. I don't like crying at the end of the episode only to know that I'm going to cry again next week. Let me cry all in one day so I can get it out of it. So I mean, it's frustrating to know that we thought streaming was going to end television, because you don't have to wait through commercials. You get it all at once. And now streaming services are kind of like, I don't really like giving it to you all at once. It really skews the numbers. I want to kind of separate it a bit. And it's kind of like, no one likes that. Who told you that was something cool to do? No one likes that. But Tia, so I'll cater this more to that. We were talking about streaming services getting movies out of here. Do you see a future to where streaming services, especially if it's adapting itself to be television, could at one day get television out of here, because you're getting more and more, like I said, NBC has its own streaming service in Peacock that's coming out, and I think I just heard from someone that Psych is doing an all-new season and a movie, but it's only going to be on Peacock. So I'm like, if it's not on USA anymore, it's really starting to lose the reasons for me needing USA. Suits is gone. Mr. Robot is gone. I'm like, I don't really need to watch USA all that much. Chris, I'm sorry. Until we can get a crowd again, I don't really need Raw right now.
Well, I mean, according to the rumors we went over on the show yesterday, Vince McMahon's like attempting to sell this thing. So we'll see what comes from that, with the stock prices being as low as they are.
Yikes. To me, it's like bite the bullet, because once everything goes back to normal, these arenas will be packed full of kids, adults, everybody, and business will be booming. The worst thing you could do, and that's what was funny about when Disney started to dwindle a little bit, the worst thing to do is to freak out in a situation you know won't last forever. Because you'll sell it, someone will get it for a cheap. Even if they have to overspend to get it, they'll then thrive. And the thing I think of most is when the guy had to sell the Clippers, right? He sold the Clippers. He sold them high. He made his money. But now that Ballmer has it and the Clippers are really good, it's kind of like, well, you're an idiot. Like, now the Clippers are good. They don't suck. And ticket prices are at an all-time high. Merchandising is at an all-time high. And I'm making crazy money off of the Clippers. So you kind of don't want to react too quickly, because then someone's going to pick it up for a cheap. Even if it's expensive to us, it's a cheap for some billionaire out there. And he's going to take it, and once the world goes back to normal, prices for him are going to be astronomical. But Tia, back to you. Do you see streaming services getting television out of here? Or do you think television, like movie theaters, will always have a home?
So I think if before this pandemic started, that I would have said at some point, TV's going to be out of here and the streaming services are going to reign supreme. But two reasons why I actually think that's incorrect now. One is that I think that everyone is overdoing it with the streaming services. It was one thing when it was a niche thing and you had just a few big power players with huge libraries, but now that literally everyone is getting one, it's like paying the same for freaking TV. And you know, not everything's going to be on one network. Not network, on one streaming service. Every streaming service has its own different type of channels. So, you know, it's getting ridiculous. As you said, we have all of these different already network stations coming out with their own freaking streaming service, and it's like, what? And then paying more. And so it's like, if you pay for Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Hulu, Apple TV Plus, that's like already $50 fucking and shit. So excuse my French. And then my second thing is that, you know, and I've talked to you about this, that for about 3 weeks, my internet was wonky as shit. I didn't have internet at nighttime, and I didn't have internet on the weekends for 3 weeks. Guess what I was forced watching? Cable freaking TV. So it's like, you're going to have that certain group of people who just kind of like flipping through cable, who then maybe don't necessarily pay for internet. There are those people out there. So I think that while certainly the field is changing, I don't necessarily see anytime soon TV kind of completely dissipating. Just because people still, it's easy to get a TV, get the cable box, and then just kind of flip, as opposed to now you got to get all these services. You got to get the thing that's going to play all of these services and stuff. Like as I told you, my Xbox One just cracked out. Luckily, I had a Chromecast in my freaking closet, and I could put that in because the Roku that I freaking ordered from Walmart still hasn't come. Marty, you got to talk to your people there.
I'm sorry.
It's been like a month or so. I don't think that it's like the movies. I don't think that the streaming services are necessarily going to push TV out of the door just yet.
I'm going to go to you first, Chris, before I give my response. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just in agreement with what Tia just said about TV, and I think the primary reason is live sports. And until you can come up with a better pricing model, then you have to pay so much to buy the NFL season ticket, and there's blackout games or the NHL season ticket. Live sports are still going to carry cable in a lot of ways, specifically ESPN. There's still that need for, and I mean, that's why when you look at something like WWE we were talking about, that's why they have those massive TV deals that they got from Fox and USA, because they are a live thing that you're only going to get on TV. So TV is still, from that aspect, and just the fact that people like to flip channels is a thing. I love the idea of a la carte, but when you start stacking these services together, and if you play video games, stacking those services together, it does end up being a cable bill. So I think maybe the model of cable changes more so than anything else, but like the idea of you're still going to have to pay for internet some way, and those are your cable companies, so they're still going to exist in some form or format. The things that more piss me off is like CBS All Access, right? Like that's more
so
frustrating.
Stupid. Why do I have to pay for that?
Well, see,
so like you're paying to watch Star Trek.
You're already a network.
Essentially.
Yeah, I was
So
pissed about
just
that.
call it the Star Trek. Just call it the Star Trek streaming service, and don't tell me it's CBS All Access. I'm fucking fine with it. But excuse my French also. But
I look at it like this. I look at it to where we are a nature that adapts, right? So I look at it to where it's like this. People do enjoy flipping through channels, but what do they hate when they're flipping through channels is that they can't find anything to watch. When you now have a streaming service that either has a library for you to go back through to where you're like, maybe I did miss that season of Psych, let me go back. Or, oh, this is a show I didn't even know came out, let me watch this. To me, I find it easier to flip through Netflix than I do television. I come across a lot more movies that maybe I haven't seen in a while that now I don't have to worry about. It's going to stop and do a commercial break. Or this is the thing I hate the most. Watching Rush Hour and hearing someone dub their voice over Chris Tucker so you can't hear the curse word is the most disgusting and foul thing to ever experience. So to know that you can go to a streaming service, watch Rush Hour completely original is something that is dear. I don't disagree with you guys. Chris, the biggest thing me and Nick went back and forth about was how can you allocate sports to a streaming service? And what we figured out was if you go on ESPN for a specific ESPN game, that's all I'm talking about right now, specifically an ESPN game, you can watch a few of those games through ESPN. And it does not matter where you live. You could watch those games on ESPN. So to me, there is a way to do it. Sure. Are they probably going to have to charge you like $15 or $20 a month for the NBA League Pass or whatever? Probably early on. But there are – go ahead. Go ahead, Tim.
Really quick, does ESPN have a streaming service? Because you guys are going to have to pay for that at some point. That's coming.
Well, Disney –
they do.
It's Disney Plus.
If Disney is smart, it would become a full-on – part of the Disney Plus bundle that you could buy along with First of all, I just want to say this. I don't know why Hulu exists when you could just put everything on Disney Plus. I think Disney is too much in it.
Can't have
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
you can't have all that adult stuff on Disney. Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
but
I don't think anything
to me,
adult is on Disney, and Hulu has a lot of really mature stuff on it.
Yeah, I
it's
mean that's just a pure marketing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's
Chris.
just pure market. That's just pure marketing. I mean, like Disney is a magical wonderland. You can't have murder shows.
Yeah,
on
but
Disney.
to me, it's as simple as like I think Netflix would be smarter if it worked this model. I can't tell you how many times like I get terrified with like whenever I let a sibling use my Netflix with whatever I watch, and then I'm like I'm looking at you recently watched, and I'm like I didn't see that. How does she know about that show? But all you have to do really is have Disney Plus, and then have it to where you could flip over to Hulu all in one app. I don't like having all these apps that are all Disney, and I'm like, just put it all in one app and just give me an avenue to go from one to the other. And it's to where I'm like, if you look at Hulu, there is like you don't go to Hulu and see people like actually having sex. So it's not like you have to worry about your kid walking in like watching a Hulu show to where they're actually doing anything.
Yeah, but you have curses. Like you have the show The Act where you're watching a mother abuse a child. You have all these, really like foul language freaking shows on it that I think that would be a problem for some, parent having that there.
Do what Netflix does. Netflix has, you could set it to where it's for children. So it doesn't allow you to do anything MA. You could set it for, I think, like teen or whatever, and then set it for adult. So anything goes for adult. Do that, and then have it be in Go ahead.
And that's another thing with these apps having a million different apps for the same company. As you said, it frustrates you with Disney, right? It frustrates me that freaking Warner Brothers has 1,000 different streaming services. You have HBO Max, and then I think it's either still going to have HBO Go or HBO Now. One of them is getting sucked into it, but I forget. And you have DC Universe, and then isn't there supposed to be another like Warner Brothers freaking streaming service? It's like you're all under the same umbrella. Just go into one.
Warner Brothers.
I will also say.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'll just say real quick, logistically, if you look at the user base that has Hulu, a lot of the people that had Hulu way before Disney Plus. So you have to worry about migrating all of that data to one specific app, and their apps aren't the same. They weren't developed by the same company. So now you're looking at reprogramming into one structure, and we kind of all know how the Disney Plus launch went. Even with the stuff they were tying together with joint accounts, it's a much heavier lift than you would think. And then also there are people that just dislike Disney as a company and as a whole. And even if they realize that Hulu is owned by Disney, they were like, well, Hulu is still Hulu. It's not exactly Disney.
You know,
and I know that sounds crazy, but that's a thing.
If I was Disney, I'd be so petty, I would rename it Disney Hulu. Like, you'd have to call it Disney Hulu from now on. That is how petty I am. It's Disney Hulu. There you go, people that don't like it.
I mean, they don't call it Disney ESPN, even though they own ESPN and have owned them for a long time.
What's crazy is, to your exact point, people forget that ESPN is Disney. ABC is Disney. Like, it's all Disney. And people are like, I hate Disney. I'm like, did you watch the finals yesterday? Yeah. No, well, thank Disney.
And that's what I'm getting at is, I mean, that's Disney's model, is that Disney is specifically the magic wonderland that's for kids.
Right.
It's supposed to be this magical thing. So when you start introducing these other aspects, whether you have parental locks or not, it becomes very against what Disney was kind of built on, which is a magical place for families. And then when you start integrating that stuff in, you start taking weird steps, like, and this is how you end up with like 16 different Nickelodeons on Pluto TV. So
I'll say this, Chris. I'll say this. I am curious because this is more pressing for Disney than it is for anything else. How Disney plays Deadpool 3. Do they release it through a sister company? Because if it is a Disney product, you're going to have a tough time with parents who see the Disney logo, take their kids, and then go, what the hell did I just take my kid to go see? So I mean that to me would be
they learned their lesson after the first one, because that was the whole problem with the first Deadpool, and all the angry, parents. I just took my kid to a superhero movie and this one woman's pegging freaking Wade Wilson. What the hell did I just watch?
But to be fair, if I blame that on the theater, because if a mother and her child come together and say 2 tickets for Deadpool, please, and you see that kid has his thumb in his mouth and you go, sure, ma'am, that's a problem. That is a problem. I remember my boss yelled at me because I was ruining sales anytime a parent was bringing their anytime a parent was coming in with their kids and was like, Grand Theft Auto for my child, please. And I'm like, you can go to a strip club in that game, ma'am. And she's like, oh, what? Absolutely not. And then the kid's like shooting me the middle finger. And I'm like, I'm sorry. This lady's not going to come back here and yell at me when she witnesses everything you can do in that game.
You deserve some bad karma for ruining that kid's childhood, man. Because I went and saw Tank Girl when I was like 6 or 7.
Listen, I've seen a parent come back into a GameStop and legit go nuclear on the guy because he sold the kid a game that was MA. And to me, I just tell the parents what's in it. If you still choose to buy it, by all means, I'll ring it up for you. But I need you to know what's in it. So you're not coming home one day and Timmy, that's 8, is making it rain in the strip club and then killing the stripper, take his money back. You're not going to walk into that and come blame me.
I mean, at some point, we're getting into the conversation of, like, parents should do their jobs better. So
That's all I'm saying,
there's
Chris.
a reason.
Basically.
There's a reason
That's
why
all
there's a
I'm saying.
rating on those games.
Yeah,
I
but
can't
those
tell you
are the
how many
same parents that
Go ahead,
like
Tia.
took their kids. It's the same thing. All the parents that took their kids to go see Sausage Party because it's an anime film, and being very, very, very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, it's like sometimes you get those parents that are like, I just want to buy this game so he can stop bugging me. He can go in his room, go play it. I don't have to be bothered. And I'm like, well, there's consequences that come with that. And the consequences are your son is now online with his friends beating up strippers. Like, that is a consequence that comes to you not doing your due diligence of just flipping the game over
Coming,
to see what it says on the back. Like, that's as easy as it is to where you just
coming
go,
from
oh, okay. Go ahead, Tia.
coming from the generation that watched South Park when we were like 8.
Yeah. Well, look, okay. If our parents do that, they would go back and say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I come from a mother who thought Ed, Edd n Eddy was too much, so I couldn't watch Ed, Edd n Eddy. So I do not feel bad for these kids. I got older and watched Ed, Edd n Eddy and was like, if only she knew Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was 1,000 times worse than Ed, Edd n Eddy.
So you're just exacting your vengeance on these poor kids so that they can't play Grand Theft Auto. That's what's actually happening. Is you're wanting to ruin their childhood.
I am that cop who got bullied as a kid and is now flexing his cop muscles to exact my revenge. That is essentially what I have become. Yes. But all right, I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I promise you 2 hours max. All right. I do want to go over one quick thing. Anything in the geek news you guys want to kind of bring up? I'm going to kind of go rapid fire here. I want to bring up the fact that we are getting a G.I. Joe movie, live action movie, that is a follow-up from the Snake Eyes movie. You guys might not know this about me. I am a bigger Snake Eyes fan than I am Batman fan. If any of you try to bring that up again, I will deny it. But I am. First person I saw was Snake Eyes, and I just loved the look, which is what made Batman so much cooler, because I'm like, he actually talks. Like, I could hear Batman say something to me. That's cooler. But I'm a huge Snake Eyes fan. I am an even bigger Henry Golding fan. So just putting those elements together, I cannot wait to see what they set up in this G.I. Joe extended universe. I'm really excited for that. So freaking hyped. Tia, I'm gonna go to you next. Anything in the geek world you wanna highlight?
Oh man, I just went to our Twitter page to see if there was anything. Come back to me. I'm not prepared.
I'm gonna
for
come back to
this.
you. Chris, I'll go to you.
I mean, I think that you nailed it with just G.I. Joe. I'm excited for that. I like the first with two movies, three movies, two movies. The first two movies, I remember
Yeah.
enjoying them. And I didn't grow up a huge GI Joe fan, but I liked those movies, so I'm excited. I saw that just come through on our Facebook, and yeah, that's something I'm definitely excited for as far as I guess geek related items go.
Yeah, and my issue is a lot of people that talk down on GI Joe talk down on it pretty much because they didn't like the first two movies, albeit they're not perfect movies. I'll never say that. But to me, you needed those movies to crawl, so these newer movies could walk. And if these newer movies are really good, it tells you we needed that so we could get to this point of having really good GI Joe movies. I am a huge fan, Chris, not of the original cartoon because they were more so of like learning curves, like teaching you and kind of going down the educational route. And I'm like, I just want to see you blow stuff up. So I was more of a fan of the newer G.I. Joe cartoons, to where it was less knowing's half the battle and more, I think I just killed that village. Like, I'm not even sure. Like, I don't even know. So I'm more of a fan of that, and I love that world. I love the world that Transformers built. Michael Bay crawled, and as much as I hate that man for what he did to my childhood, he crawled so we could have Bumblebee. He crawled so when these new Ninja Turtle movies come out that are in development, and if they're good, he crawled so they could walk. So we needed bad so we could get to good. So that's how I choose to look at it, rather than just spewing hate on a whole franchise because they couldn't get it right originally. I just look at it to where it's like, there's always a chance to right the ship, and that rite of passage seems to be Henry Golden's Snake Eyes movie that comes out later this year.
I do have one other, I guess, geek-ish related thing, which is Yakuza is out on Xbox Gold.
Yes.
So if you haven't played the Yakuza games, the PC, if you have PC Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass, I highly recommend going and play those. I saw that pop up on Game Pass and was like, yes. So if you haven't played the Yakuza games, go play them.
One last thing I wanted to ask you, Chris, before I move on to Martin, Jacoy, and Tia to end this. How blown away were you by Valhalla, by the new Assassin's Creed? Like, how freaking epic was that, man?
It's gonna be pretty awesome. I'm actually, it's the one I've been looking forward to. I guess now that I've seen it, it's the one that's intrigued me the most, because the last two atmospheres didn't really capture me that much, except for whichever one was the pirate one. I think was the last
Black
Assassin's
Flag,
Creed I
that's
really
the one
really
me
dug.
and Joel love. Black Flag, yeah.
So that's the one that I really, really dug. So this one kind of harkens to that a little bit, or at least it has my same level of interest. So I'm very stoked about it. I think it's going to be really cool. Plus, they've had a couple years off, if you really think about it. So hopefully, by the time this game comes out, it should be incredible, especially on the new console platform.
Yeah, I love the look of it. And what was so dope about it was when it looked like the main character was about to die on the field, and then like he hit him with the assassin blade. When I saw that, I was like, oh shit, this is Assassin's Creed, because it just didn't feel like it. The atmosphere didn't feel like it. It wasn't until I saw that blade where I was like, oh yeah, okay, Assassin's Creed. All right. I'm in. But yeah, I am a huge fan of Black Flag. It is the most underrated video game of the franchise. I put it right up there with the first one. It was just so much fun, and you being able to go to battle in your ship. And you being able to fortify your ship and make it like a tank on water was super dope. Chris, I will talk to you later about my pitch for Assassin's Creed live-action TV series, a shortened format. I have so many ideas, and I pitched it to Joel, and he liked it. That's when I knew I'm on to something, because Tia knows Joel disagrees with everything I say. So if Joel's like,
Go
ahead, Chris.
I mean, as soon as you said it, I was just like, is it going to just be like Bad Matrix, which is the majority of the story that's the backbone of Assassin's Creed?
I'm going to try my best not to get into it here, because I don't want to take up too much time. But my idea was to have the story be based on Black Flag. You eliminate the human aspect of it to where you're showing them entering, was it Cadmus or Admus, whatever it was called. So the story is only about the pirate's life. And I was going to cast the guy from the guy that was Jon Snow as the lead of that Black Flag series, have it be about 14 episodes. And it's only about that pirate's journey of becoming an assassin. rather than showing all that extra stuff that even us gamers just could care less about. It slowed down the game, really.
We'll have to talk after this for sure, and then I'll also pitch you my Red Dead movie.
We're gonna do it. We're actually even gonna have an episode called a show called Pitch It, where we're gonna pitch our ideas. Chris, we're gonna have fun with this, man. But no, Tia, you ready, or you want me to go to you last?
No, I'm ready. I'm
All
ready.
right,
I'm ready. So, what the fuck was I gonna say? Oh, not that this is like exciting news. I just felt that maybe we should highlight it for a second because I thought it was super interesting. Apparently the studios are looking to recast the actors who had previously been casted to play Iris West in the upcoming Flash movie. I just wanted to get all of your guys' opinions on that because that seems to be pretty big. Granted, we all know that a lot of what had been set in place prior to Zack Snyder leaving is obviously dissipating, but they are still coming out with a Flash movie, and considering it seems like the rumors are because the director wants to recast, what do you guys think, Juan? Like, what are your thoughts there of them wanting to recast when this actress had already been announced that she was playing Iris West, and it seems like, that was something that this actress was excited to do.
I'm a huge Kiersey Clemons fan, and no, not just because she is like the most beautiful woman ever. I am a fan of her acting, actually. So it sucks that we won't get to see her push boundaries as Iris. But this does give an opportunity for something Tia has wanted since the day Justice League was announced, and that is getting rid of Ezra Miller. I think you should do a full haul. Get rid of everybody. Honestly, I'm sick of Ezra. I'm sick of the fact that
really?
I'm
surprised by that.
I'm only
so
sick of
because
it
you're always
because,
the one who's yelling at me for like doubting Ezra's ability to play Barry Allen.
you wanted to get rid of him because you didn't think he could play a good Barry. I said that's more so Zach's writing. That's definitely more so Zach's writing than it is his acting ability. I think that is the biggest issue. But no, I think you should recast. Start fresh. Don't tie all that bad juju to this new Flash movie. Recast. And honestly, Tia, guess who I want to play Flash? Mr. Quaid from The Boys. I wanted him to play Barry Allen. Good. He has such a intelligence about him and such a nervousness about him that I think he could usher in a new Barry Allen that could be so comic accurate. And he is very attractive, so he has that element of Barry, and he's much of a newer name that this movie could launch him into stardom. I do think he is a really gifted actor. What he did with The Boys was really fun. I can't wait to see where he kind of develops in that. But that's who I would want to be my new Barry Allen. Get Ezra out of here and his weirdness and his Dennis Rodman-esque behavior. And let's get Mr. Quaid in here. But Martin, I'm going to go to you next. How do you feel about Miss Clemons possibly being on the outs?
Be honest, I don't really have an opinion on it because I have not really paid that much attention because they keep jumping back and forth what they're going to do. I just stopped caring. But I did have a couple things I wanted to throw out there, not to deal with that subject, mind you. The whole Hercules thing.
Yeah.
Of course, you hear everyone say that Disney can't come up with anything new, and I tend to kind of mimic that theory. Though I'm somewhat interested in see what they might do with Hercules, though, because I love the cartoon. I thought James Woods was hilarious as Hades. I'll be curious to see what they do with it if it ever comes through. Also, we talked about there was a brief mention about the PlayStation thing and why they couldn't make it compatible down to the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. That's very disappointing to me because if I could turn this camera over here, I've got an entire shelf full of PlayStation 3 games that I can't do anything with because my PlayStation 3 doesn't work anymore. I would love to be able to play them dumb things again because I got all the You know, we were talking about the Assassin's Creed ones. I've got all those Assassin's Creed games sitting over there that I can't do anything with, but I'm too clingy to throw them away. So I was kind of hoping, you know, 'cause that's the original reason why I bought the original PlayStation 3 was because it was down, you know, it was I could play the PlayStation 2 games on it. I still hope maybe at some point in time they come up with something for that. But I mean, I understand, I mean, cost-wise, you know, the more compatibility you have to add to it, probably the higher the cost gets. But I was kind of a little disappointed that we couldn't do that because, like I said, because I've got a bunch of dust collectors over here waiting for a game to go into.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll start with your Hercules story because I do not have a PlayStation, so I do not share your pain. Xbox gang over here. But as far as Hercules, I think it's something we have to get over. Disney does do original stuff. They just don't do anything original as far as adaptations, like original stories of their animation, stuff like that. But to me, you're taking something that kids of this past generation probably had no interest in seeing, probably didn't even see. So you're reintroducing them to something that they can always go back to watch the animated movie. And I've seen a lot of people, when Lion King came out, didn't see the original animated movie, saw this one and went, I want to see what was so good about that animated one. And they saw it and they were like, oh, okay, I get it. So to me, if this is how you could, I'll give you an example, Tia. I have not seen any of the Back to the Futures. I don't plan on it. I saw a little bit of one and I kind of found it to be a little bit boring. If someone did a remake of that, like a lot of people pitched, getting the writers of Rick and Morty to cast Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland and make a kind of twisted, freaky Back to the Future. If that hits, and I think that's really good, it'll make me want to see where it started, you know? It'll intrigue me enough. Same thing with Jurassic Park. I saw Jurassic World, made me kind of want to go, where did this start? And I saw the originals and I kind of went, these are horrible. I'm glad I started with Jurassic World. So to me,
stop. I'm getting off this friggin'.
To me, if you do Hercules with
Here we
Chris
go.
Pratt as Hercules and Idris Elba as Hades, and kind of make a new kind of spin to it, it could make a lot of these kids go, I want to see that animated movie. Like, where did this come from? The Jungle Book, Tia, honestly had a huge sales for their animated movie as far as downloads for it, because people wanted to see where did this come from. So it does work that way. Me personally, if Disney doesn't think it has good ideas as far as its original content, don't just put out a bad movie. If you need to keep going to the well because it works, do it until it doesn't. So to me, I like it. I would cast Chris Pratt as Hercules and Idris Elba as Hades, and it would be so much fun to watch. Chris Pratt has that lovable charm that you need for Hercules, and Idris Elba could bring such a dope vibe to Hades. Just picturing now in the trailer. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think Chris Pratt would be too old for that role. It has to be someone younger.
See, I disagree.
Liam Hemsworth. Liam Hemsworth.
No.
Liam Hemsworth.
She just want to see him with the shirt.
There is a lovability. There is a lovability about Chris Pratt that it's like when you see him, you're just like, it's so adorable. Look at Chris Pratt. And remember, very early on in the animated movie of Hercules, he was very kind of not all there. Chris Pratt could do that better than anybody. He can kind of be that Dutch that's trying to swing a sword and hit somebody by accident or throws the shield by accident. He fits that more so than anything. I'm going to go to you real quick, Chris. But to me, the biggest thing I picture in my head is hearing Idris Elba's voice as Hades as he slowly makes his way out of the dark, into the light. And like just picturing how spooky and scary that would be. I think the animated one kind of went the humorous route. I would like a kind of Clash of the Titans, darker vibe of this Hercules. And I think it'll be a little refreshing, and I think they could do a good job about it. But go ahead, Chris.
So with this Hercules movie, is it going to be like an origin type story of Hercules? Is there a reason why they couldn't just do a very grizzled Hercules? Because if so,
there's not much details yet, except for kind of the few people that they have an eye on. It getting a producer, names for directors. Tia, correct me if I'm wrong. That's all the information that's really been put out so far. So it very likely could be an older Hercules, and we get flashbacks of what we saw from the animated movie. But this is an older Hercules. So I mean, it's very likely we could get that. They take their own spin on it.
Yeah, so if they did something like that, I mean, right off the rip, Tom Hardy. Grow the hair
Tom
out, bro.
Hardy, Hercules.
Love it.
We would never understand what he's saying. We wouldn't hear a word.
Yeah, but
He's supposed to be Greek, man. He's not supposed to talk like Chris Pratt.
I'm supposed to just understand what he's saying. That's all I'm saying, Chris. I don't need mumbles and grunts.
Stop hating on Tom Hardy, Javon. Jesus.
I'm not, but I had to rewatch Venom on subtitles, Tia. I'm like, I don't know what
Stop.
I just like the idea of an older Hercules because you can go kind of the God of War. If we're going to tie it back to video games, for instance, you can go the God of War aspect of Hercules.
Oh, you want him that old? You want him that old?
Yeah, dude.
Balding and everything?
Yes. Hell yeah. Tom Hardy, long hair, but holding on to it like Hulk Hogan, just fucking throwing people off cliffs.
You want to skip all of Hercules' sexy phase to go right to a balding old man? That's what you're saying, Chris?
Yes, because you want to know why? Because if you do Hercules, it's just like Troy or any of those other movies that they throw a pretty boy gladiator into. But if you did like an old version of Hercules, it'd be something I hadn't seen.
Fair enough. I would rather still pitch my Jason Momoa God of War, where you can do that exact story. Shave Jason, even though you would never want to touch that hair. Shave Jason Momoa down, thicken up that beard, and do a story like that. I would rather that. But I mean, look.
And he's also good looking shirtless.
Okay.
Yes,
all
he
right.
is.
Okay. I wasn't even thinking of that, but yeah, I mean, I guess I can't deny that.
Yeah, you gotta stop it.
But no, I mean, look, the Russo brothers seem to be attached to it. I have not seen a bad thing from them since they have started their career as directors, producers, whatever you want to call it. The Chadwick Boseman movie was a bit of a snooze fest, so maybe that might be the one bad thing they had their names attached to. But I trust them, and I am excited to see what they're able to do with this Hercules movie. Jacoya, did you want to add anything? Is there anything in the geek world?
Well, first of all, you totally skipped me from the last question, but I ain't say nothing because I ain't want to extend the whole thing.
Which one?
But I'll talk on. Yes, you did.
Yeah,
You did.
Which
You
one?
did.
No, which one? I'm saying which one?
The last question about the TV show. You
Iris
skipped
West.
me.
The floor is yours then, Jacoya.
Y'all was having your old conversation. Forgot about me. But no. On this here, I'm kind of interested in seeing how they go forward with this Mortal Kombat movie that they're looking at. I heard something about a Sims movie that they're trying to do. I'm kind of interested in that as well. Hercules, I really, really love Hercules. That's like one of my favorite movies. And it's interesting because my daughters actually just saw Hercules for the first time this year. And I've heard them watching it in their room, like, while I'm out here in the living room. So it's kind of like cute that they actually, gotten into it. It had the best soundtrack, it had one of the best soundtracks.
One of the best. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You was ready. Let me finish my sentence.
Okay.
Dang. It had one of the best soundtracks, for animated, movie. So they would definitely have to make sure to ramp up, that music. It's kind of interesting because they had Ariana Grande singing the song I Don't Think I'm in Love when they did the sing-along for Disney. I could actually see her playing that role, interestingly. And as far as who's Hercules, I don't know. I do not know. But I know they better get those muses together. Those muses better be cast properly or it's going to be a problem. That's going to be the issue for me. So I think they better listen to the fans. They've done enough, check marks on who they think should be in it. I definitely believe that Amber Riley should have a chance to be in the movie. I think she's very underrated. Her voice is amazing. She would do great. I think it's whoever else they're putting in there, people who are known, but I know for sure that Amber Riley needs to be in this movie, period. But yeah, I think that's about it. I haven't really, there's a guy I follow on YouTube that does like all of these, like the rumor movie reviews and like the movie release dates and things that come out. So the only thing I really was interested in from there was, like I said, Mortal Kombat, because that's one of my favorites, you know, to watch. I really thought they were going to do an Assassin's Creed Part 2. That never got any, what you mean? I like that movie. I actually like that movie. I like that movie. You
played the games?
I did play the game.
And you like that movie?
I told you I like things for what they are. My gosh. Jeez. I can't. Anyway, I know that they kind of like X that out. So that was like you know. But is there like a animated show that they have for that?
For Assassin's Creed?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's why I was trying to pitch a perfect show so everyone can forget that movie and we can reestablish what doing Assassin's Creed world would be. But
oh my god!
To your point, Mortal Kombat is very important. Because if that movie can't hit, then it makes it really tough on us ever getting any other movie that's an adaptation of a video game like that to really hit. Because to me, if you could do Mortal Kombat really well, I would love Street Fighter again. I would love Tekken. I would love seeing some more. I love Tekken. I would love Hitman. Even though I thought the first one was classic, and then I spoke to the executive producer, and he's like, "Oh, that movie was horrible." I'm like, "You're not supposed to say that." Like, and then Timothy was like, "Yeah, I took the job for money." I'm like, "Why does everyone keep pooping on this movie?" But no, to me, Mortal Kombat, it has the power to do what Detective Pikachu did, which was Detective Pikachu opened the door to where you're like, all right, if you can do that well, I can expect a Pokemon movie down the line and know that it can look good, feel good.
And then Sonic as well.
Sonic was great. I haven't heard really anything negative about it.
Yeah.
We all got to see it a week and a half early, and we just left the theater going, like, I told Joel before the movie started, I'm like, if this movie ends and we feel like we want to either A, go buy a Sonic game, or B, go play one that we already have, it did its job. I text Joel the next day, and he's like, I bought Sonic Mania. I'm like, it's cool. I bought Sonic Forces. I had to get some kind of Sonic in here because it hyped me up. So Mortal Kombat just dropped a great animated movie. Go check it out if you did not. It is so authentic, so good. It feels just like the games. This live action movie I thought casted horribly. So I don't even know what to expect, but James Wan is on it. I love him. I trust him. He has not done it. He has not steered me wrong yet. So my fingers are crossed. But yeah, no, that's a good thing to point out, Jacoya. That movie needs to hit. I need a Tekken movie, and we can't have Tekken if Mortal Kombat can't.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
I love Tekken so much.
Fingers crossed for that. Chris, did you have anything to add? You look like
you Soul Calibur.
Mortal Kombat. Soul Calibur, we're not ready for it, Tia, only because it's a crossbreed of too many licensing. I think there's licensing issues on that.
I don't know anything about what's going on with the Mortal Kombat movie. I just hope it's not based around the Combat Kids.
No, God, no. Chris?
No,
Chris. It is not. No.
So as long as it's not based around the Combat Kids, I'm totally down for a new Mortal Kombat movie. And the only thing I was going to say is the Hitman, with what they were able to accomplish with those games after that movie came out and how good those games are and all of the different things that you can become as Agent 47, like a drummer, for instance, that they need to revisit Hitman, because I think that there's some hilarity you could put in that movie, a little bit of levity, some older style James Bond movies that you could add into that Hitman franchise. It'd be pretty great as far as Agent 47 goes.
We're going to have a great video game live action adaptation conversation, Chris. But I do want to pitch this last thing before we end this here. We had a great show. Martin, Tia, Jacoya, Chris, thank you guys for joining me for this awesome version of Geek Vibes Live. We haven't done one in forever. So it was really cool to do this. But one thing I would love, because I think Feige and Disney could find a way to do it, is a live action Marvel versus Capcom, to where it's a universe builder. It's not just a straight up event film. It's where you slowly build it. So you have Capcom do a few of their movies, and then you have Marvel do a few of their movies, to where those movies end to where it's inciting what evil is to come. And you could even have it to where Ultron comes back, like the newer one just did. But I think if you could ever get Mega Man and Captain America, or Mega Man and Spider-Man on the same screen, it will break records that nothing will ever be able to break in the history of movies. Marvel versus Capcom in a live action would shatter the box office. It would
That'd be awesome.
It would blow up. Go ahead, Chris.
Unless Mega Man steps on screen and they play Dr. Wily's Castle theme, I'm out. But if he shows up,
we could do that. But no, I mean, I would love that crossover, and I think Feige could kind of get Capcom on board with it. It's great for both brands, because if you're Capcom, what you would be smart to do is have a Marvel vs. Capcom game in the waits. So after the movie drops, you release your game. Your game has all kinds of numbers because people are so hyped from the movie that hopefully is good. But I think if you did that crossover, it would be epic. And then it would force Warner Brothers to have to horribly force itself to do a Mortal Kombat versus DC universe. And that ultimately would just be an eyesore. Thank you guys. Go ahead, Tia.
No. I was just gonna say, and it would go.
100%, because they would force it. They would force it at that point. But I want to thank you guys for joining me for this episode. I'm gonna end it now, so we don't venture into the 3-hour mark. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you guys stay tuned for Skate to Throats. Also, Wrestling Geeks Alliance. Both episodes are recording tomorrow, so they'll be released for this upcoming week. TS Top 10. Martin and Kathy. You guys have your podcast also. Stay tuned for that. And we will be doing Star Wars Saturdays tomorrow. This last episode was very emotional. I emptied out a whole tissue box watching this episode. So make sure you guys stay tuned to see me, AJ, and both our Dakotas break down this week's episode of Star Wars. Once again, thank you guys. Until next time.